This video contains strobe lighting effects and flashing images, as well as audio and visuals that may be unsuitable to those under the age of 13. Viewer discretion is advised. Music and animation have long been an integral part of my life, so imagine how excited I would be when they mesh together. The answer is very. Performance music videos have been around since time immemorial, but it wasn't until the 1970s that the artistic creativity that we associate with the form became the norm, and for animation to align itself with it. Little did Elvis Costello and the Attractions know that when they released their video for Accidents Will Happen in 1979, that some 40 years later, our world would be peppered with animated music videos that fans of both art forms could fawn over. Some defined generations, others showcased great talents through fan competitions, and others just existed within an artist's filmography, gathering dust as it is replayed on music channels evermore. Not all efforts hit the mark though, even one of my favourite bands couldn't get that right. Apologies Alter Bridge, you guys are still awesome, but when musician and animator hit the nail on the head, boy do they leave an impact. It made me wonder, which of these audio-visual artistic bastions stand above the rest to claim the title as the greatest? At least, in my humble opinion anyway. All in all, 190 songs from 124 artists were in contention, so whittling that down to just 10 was a phenomenal undertaking that required some comprehensive criteria to make the job easier. And out of all that I'm about to list, most importantly, the videos are being judged on how effectively the newer media in video transforms and enhances the older media in audio, housing both in one, making something unique. As a result, if the song doesn't work without the video and vice versa, then I have to be cruel and cut it loose. The other rules of the criteria are as follows. Only one music video per artist to keep the field fair. It has to be a commercially released song available to be purchased either physically or digitally from a reputable source. No fan-made videos are allowed unless it has been specifically endorsed by the artists themselves as the official video for that song. If a video contains too much live action or it detracts from the animation, I personally won't include it out of my own subjectivity and bias. It must consist entirely of original animation created for the video itself, and no lyric videos which solely exist to display the song's lyrics on screen and nothing else are allowed. As a result of all this is a very subjective video, and I personally have not seen every single animated music video in existence because this list already took so damn long to make, I didn't want to make it even harder for myself. So whether I am right or wrong in my upcoming choices is for you and the comment section discourse to decide. Either way, let's get started then, shall we? Music videos can take many guises through tonal, stylistic and thematic weight, but in their most basic form to most music listeners, they are fun enhancers to add an extra dimension to the experience of listening to the song itself. It doesn't require too much to make a music video pop either in live action or animated form, so if you can nail a keep it simple stupid attitude to your creative vision, it could come out looking pretty good regardless. Sometimes, however, this can be ignored when a simple looking art form to the uninitiated such as pixel art is applied, as it gives its director and artists carte blanche to go a bit gung-ho with how much and what is portrayed in the video. Thankfully, a video springs to mind that is both playful in tone, contains aesthetically pleasing pixel art, and has just enough complexity to not overwhelm it. Danish pop duo Junior Senior hit it big on their first try in 2002, sending European radio into a bouncy and joyous tailspin, and summarily had a music video to fit with that buoyant tone. While an atypical video featuring a club losing their shit to this song would have been enough, Junior and Senior roped in UK-based animation outfit Shinola to craft a video that would unexpectedly ramp up the eccentricity to 11 as pixel art madness accompanied this dance floor filler. A squirrel that seemingly goes through a midlife crisis, its two members happily playing their instruments before getting their figurative rocks and faces off at a massage table, squirting a hot dog in sauce more suggestively than I would ever like, sentient objects, mostly of the food variety, a robot dancing, and as noted, an ever-growing collection of pixel people doing as the song implies, all happens in the course of 3 minutes. Uniqueness is certainly something this video has in droves, and the song's memorability combines to ensure that both remained in my mind over the near 20 years since its release, to where I had no choice but to include it in my list. Despite a lot of pixel art videos coming along since this one, none have even come close to being as soul-enrichingly wacky and attention-grabbing as this one. If you look up fun in the dictionary, you might just see this music video listed alongside its definitions. One of my favourite visual signifiers in music videos is when a band or musician uses the album art that the song is found on to help establish the connection that the song has in representing the broader work. Smashing Pumpkins' Tonight Tonight and 33, Caravan Palace's Rock for Me, Nirvana's Come As You Are, Gorillaz on Melancholy Hill, Queens of the Stone Age's Go With The Flow, and pretty much every video that was included as part of Madeleone's Good Faith project are just examples of this that exist out there, and I could go on listing them, but we don't have time for that. What I'm saying is that when this combination is done well, it can give many an idea of what stands out as an infection vector for the rest of the album to follow if you are intrigued by it. In lieu of more elaborate visual excesses and a quicker turnover, many bands and musicians these days do that with lyric videos or ones that have very simple visuals to get the point across. Rarely do both of these collide successfully, but one of them did, and in the process it managed to launch a band to their greatest chart success to date. By far and away the most popular video on this list, having amassed over 1 billion views on YouTube since its release in 2013, it's no wonder that this was Arctic Monkeys' gateway into the worldwide musical mainstream after being lauded in the UK pretty much since they came about with their debut some 6 years earlier. It's an emboldened visual representation of album AM's identity and their suave, upfront, garage and stoner rock musical style that carried with swagger all the way through. Taking the waveforms that adorn many music-based videos across the platform as a base, it entrances you with its bold simplicity before gradually hypnotizing you with an ever-growing collection of colors and a display of sexy and voluptuous women, initiating the motion of the band's seemingly foreshadowable upward trajectory as the black and white mass is injected with vibrancy as it hits its apex. Its fluidity and sheer simplicity are eye-catching to where you just can't look away from it, all while the song puts its arm around your shoulder and charms you into submission. Do I Want to Know is arguably the Sheffield-based band's creative and critical peak in both audio and visual form, standing out for the way in which both bolster one another. The song makes the video, and the video made the song. There's few better symbols of my criteria's main point at work on this list than this one, and damn, did it carry such an unassuming video at first glance to riches many would never have foreseen, but it honestly deserves. Also, if you want to get a lowdown on the rise of Arctic Monkeys and AM respectively, check out Middle 8 and Trash Theory's videos on the subject, because they are two channels that are well worth your time and get the highest recommendations from me. You will not be disappointed. When one thinks of the greatest music video of all time, Sledgehammer immediately comes to mind. It helped rocket a song to #1 in the charts, and in terms of the MTV Video Music Awards, became the most lauded video the art form has ever seen. Why is this the case, you may be asking? Well, when you combine the audible artistry of former Genesis frontman Peter Gabriel at the height of his powers and the stop-motion wizardry of Nick Park's Arbor Animations, who subsequently went on to great fame with Wallace and Gromit, it ensured that this was a combination and formula that would get repeated for its follow-up smash success big time, and ensured that animation in music videos, which was already gaining its stride thanks to Dire Straits' Brothers in Arms and Money for Nothing, a-ha's Take on Me, and surprisingly enough, Aretha Franklin's Rock-A-Lot, would be embraced for many years to come. And Is that really important? Well, it damn well is, because that video and many others heightens the scale to which stop motion is regarded within this medium. While I can't include either of these two Gabriel music videos in my list due to their abundance of live action elements, it allows me to take stock in just how stop motion can be used, from embracing pop chart successes such as Gabriel, Jackson, and Tool, to being embraced by more niche yet well-regarded musicians like Fleet Foxes, Steve Wilson, and They Might Be Giants, just to name a few. Therefore, when it came to highlighting this art form in this list, I had to find a perfect match stylistically and musically to make it work. And I think, through a lot of searching, that I found it. When immediately looking at the rifle's spiral, it's easy to know where its influences come from. Henry Selick, the man behind The Nightmare Before Christmas and Coraline, as that gloomy and creepy aesthetic style immediately makes itself apparent to ensure that it is enamorous with you from the moment you set your eyes on it. What astounded me though is how this upbeat, folky indie rock song managed to juxtapose the dark visuals and wiggle its way into not escaping from my mind as the little girl rises to achieve her magical dreams, ensuring that the ominous top hats who stalked with her from the key to success would never be able to stop it, as the bunny changed colours in alignment between good and bad, light and dark, and the creative lengths which we'll all go to achieve the goals which we desire. A pretty good message, if I dare say so myself. Despite a muted colour palette, it still brings charm in abundance, as the wooden, string and wire apparatus that make up the models and the mise-en-scène give it life and dexterity in a way that few of other visually similar contenders could match. It also proved decisive that unlike a lot of stop-motion videos, its movement isn't stuttered or janky. It's clean, soft and graceful, ensuring this song tonally matched, even if visually it feels a little strange and disconcerting to the uninitiated. This video is one of the times where subjectivity has held more of an influence than others in this list, as this is a visually pleasing music video and audibly enticing song that combine together to hit all the right buttons for me that may not sit well for others observing this list unfold. But based against my criteria and what I'd sought to look for by making this list in the first place, this video has given me something that I feel represents the stylistic coalescence of this medium very well indeed. I bet that when you saw this thumbnail and clicked on the video, you'd probably expect that Gorillaz, the world's first animated band, would get representation in this list, right? Well, I'm sad to say that this isn't the case. For a band who has made such genre-bending and groundbreaking music over the last 2 decades, to hold such a mantle yet rarely back it up with the most enticing or exciting music videos is disappointing, personally. Gorillaz never really took advantage of this art form to really play on it to its massive major excesses, in my opinion, and while this isn't the greatest thing to admit, it has meant that I've been able to look at other avenues to where bands have been able to use this medium to fashion out an identity for themselves in utilising animation for the majority of, if not all of their music video output. Goldfish, Gunship, and the aforementioned Caravan Palace, as well as Delta Heavy and the fan-affiliated group bringing Mystery Skull's first album to life with a Scooby-Doo parody that rakes in all of the views, are fine examples of this. However, none have been able to capture the imagination of music and animation fans worldwide like CMS. Through a frequent collaboration partnership with Rudoco, their distinct style has meant that every single music video released from them has some fervour attached to it, none of which would have been possible without some suitable groundwork being laid first. Yes, I have to admit that Mr. Fear and Summer Nights are phenomenal music videos, and their presence made deciding between CMS's contributions the hardest on the entire list when whittling down to one song per artist. However, when you align some of the most fluid movement I've ever laid my eyes on, the punchy black, white and red colour palette, and a snappy danceable song adjoining with phenomenal visual subtext together, you get an audiovisual treat that constantly has me and many others coming back to it. Therefore, choosing The Wolf over them was a no-brainer. Its use of obtuse angular shapes, thin outlines, and immense lighting and shading brings its stylistic distinctiveness to the table where it's unlike anything else, and with seamless transitions helping the song wrap around its themes of choosing between the heart and the head and tackling your problems, it reverberates more so than it has any right to. It's deceptively substantial and makes its statement of intent loud and clear, ensuring that it would not be forgotten in a hurry. I'd never heard of CMS before making this video, meaning that not only had I been introduced to a fantastic representation of just how good this medium could look, I also found a new band to jam to, so congrats CMS, you have my attention and I'll be awaiting your next music video, much like others, with eager anticipation. The 1990s. The decade of my birth was one where, against all logic, at least by 2020's decade standards, anything could make it on the radio and music television if the right ingredients were mixed together. This led to the airwaves being flooded with a variety of musical styles, the depth of which we've not seen since then, and creativity in abundance in music videos that the burgeoning MTV generation of the 1980s had established for them to take advantage of. As a result, many iconic music videos were made, and thanks in most part to the songs and the video's overall qualities, a decent chunk of them have stood the test of time. As noted in my number 8 entry, stop motion and most importantly claymation found a home in this decade, becoming the beating heart of some of the weirdest music videos of all time. Primus' Southbound Pachyderm and Devil Went Down to Georgia, Sepultura's Ratamahatta, Weird Al Yankovic's Jurassic Park, and Green Jelly's Three Little Pigs all are examples which make you raise your eyebrow and wonder what the hell they were smoking when they put them together. But none put its head above the parapet more so than a band who defined the decade not just musically, but by also creating one of its greatest audio-visual masterpieces. If the Arctic Monkeys inclusion in the number 9 spot was a phenomenal way of using a music video to highlight its parent album's identity, then Alice in Chains did one better, taking the Jar of Flies, applying its aesthetic to a song that emboldens the sound of the EP it comes from, and showcases a visual experience that typifies Gen X nihilism and the fiendishly dark and brooding atmosphere that grunge held, even as its dying breaths echoed out. The sepia-toned ambered sun bleaching the establishing shot sets the ball rolling as the band comes to a circus, a twisted home for the daring and loose cannoned among us, again fitting of its time period, as the darkness stemming from a disgruntled teen's flies sends the clowns, performers and animal overlords into a destructive downward spiral as I Stay Away rebounds through orchestrally accented acoustic muses into blistering guitar solos and gut-punching density to coat it all in a thick veneer of tonal appropriateness. Whilst all goes up in flames, you feel that sense of tradition and inhumanity in the world symbolised by that circus igniting, as the last true bastion of the genre makes a definitive stand. It's a haunting video that catches you off guard with its violence and distinctively uneven pacing, only to lure you back in and kick your ears into gear with just how fantastic the song is. The stop and claymation combination lends itself to a gritty and discomforting experience that could only be matched by the music of a band who often treaded grunge's darkest paths, and damn does it leave an impression. This was a video that was a contender from the moment I started compiling this list, and it left a sizable imprint on making arguably my favourite Alice in Chains song just that little bit better. Much like the music genres themselves, it took some time for animated music videos to be more than just a niche, which is why you often saw it limited to rock and pop, the most popular genres at the time, in the first few decades of its usage as a creative medium. However, over time, genres have come through in the preceding decades, such as dance music, and more prominently hip-hop and rap, where they've reached a level of commercial success to where it allows them to take creative strides in embracing this side of their musical marketing, and gets away from a lot of the stereotypes that you'd often see in these kinds of videos. And in the last decade, we've seen animated music videos from the likes of Kanye West, Childish Gambino, Lil Wayne, Travis Scott, and XXXTentacion, to name a few, proving that rappers can get rid of all of the visual iconography that comes with them and make a damn splash. What we've also seen a resurgence of is the rise of retro aesthetics, stemming from the animations of the 1920s through to the 1940s, representing the golden era of American animation, brought into prominence by Cuphead in the video game world, and eventually crossing over to music, with the likes of Dua Lipa's Hallucinate being a damn fine example of it, proving that as animation and music media move forward, much like the public consciousness as a whole, we can look backwards as well for nostalgic inspiration. So what happens when both of them are combined? Well, you get a damn fine music video such as this one on your hands. Despite being open to listen to a lot of genres of music, I'm not the biggest fan of rap or hip hop out there. It's just not my thing. So I went into this list with a slight bias on my plate. And then Jay-Z walked round the corner and showed me the story of OJ. That was a kick up the arse that was needed, and boy does it make a statement in the process. Utilising the rubber hose style of the animation era that I've already noted to paint an exaggerated caricature of African Americans and their struggles throughout history, whilst also scathingly criticising the way in which affluent African Americans of the modern day do not invest in their future and just splash their cash around because it's a status symbol. While that does seem very rich, coming from one of the wealthiest in the genre, the use of biting words combined with discerning visual clout ensures its message isn't lost on anyone willing to lend ears or eyes to this. And damn is it effective. It's a startling, eye-opening use of the visual medium to convey messages and symbolism that the words and music themselves would not have been able to do as effectively otherwise, and I applaud the creative liberties taken to make something that would have been hard to confront for some, and makes the job that entails much easier to elaborate and discern. As a middle-class white man, I can't relate to this song like others can, but despite that, it's damn flooring in just how open and unashamed it is, which makes you appreciate it more and more, and raises it onto a plinth that other videos from the genre can only dream of getting. It's visually delightful yet strikingly affronting, musically bleak yet hopeful of change, with the confidence and swagger that Jay-Z often brings to his work, ensuring this song and video are difficult to erase from the brain once they gain free real estate in it. It's no wonder that this video made a splash when it dropped in 2017, being listed as Rolling Stone's best of that year, and, as noted by that date, it's also the most recent video on this list. Some may say that placing it this high is undeserved due to the recency bias, but given the sheer utility at hand in what this does, it's a fine accolade for it to earn that I will not rip away from its figurative hands. Animation is a labour-intensive and time-draining art form, much like music and content creation, so when a musician wants to make a statement, they will go all out to ensure it is the best they can be and as true to their vision as possible. As animation has phased out its analogue methods though, a sense of that effort can sometimes be lost, except when detail and complexity becomes part of the USP of a video and the artist themselves. None are more so in highlighting this when each frame is painstakingly painted by hand, proving the dedication to the analogue form. The Beastie Boys utilised their artistic growth on Paul's Boutique with their video for Shadrach, as MCA Adam Yauch personally painted every single frame of their seminal video. It gives off an energy of the typical show of theirs at the time and is willfully playful and powerful in understating and understanding the effort needed to bring it all to fruition. It's also seamless and lively, yet you would not have even imagined the scale and time needed to bring such an artistic video to life. It's no wonder that this type of video is exceptionally rare, and a film like Loving Vincent only comes around when people are dedicated enough to put their time and effort in to make it. So when one like this does come along and leaves you breathless, you just have to applaud in awe of it. Very rarely am I left speechless by a music video, but when the Jezebels dropped this bombshell for the first single off their 2016 album, Cynthia, I knew I was in the presence of something utterly special. Personal love for the band and my biases aside, this is a work of art and I will fight anybody who says otherwise, as this band did not pull any punches in making an impact for their album, which sadly they couldn't tour on due to their keyboardist's ovarian cancer diagnosis. I'm still very saddened about that. Utilising oil on glass, painted frame by frame, the lead animator of this project often spent 12 hours a day working on it without a break or food, wholly engrossed in bringing this tale of a woman being hunted down and burned at the stake to life, and the effort and subtle complexity shown through every stroke of the brush is fascinating to see unfold. While it may not have the dynamism of its older Beastie Brothers brethren and creative arms, it more than makes up for it in chilling atmosphere. It complements the haunting and oppressiveness of the Australian indie pop band's rhythm section, as its bleak colour palette and striking detail, well, as the song title says, comes alive, with a jaw-dropping crescendo that lifts the somber and unsettling video into the stratosphere where it would never ever fall again. Its sheer scale, audiovisual cohesion, and artistic dedication are hard to ignore, and with it comes a declaration of intent that not all music videos have to live up to such a lively showcase. The beauty of it can be stoic and sonically emotive while allowing the visuals to reply in equal verse. This is a video that I have championed since I first saw it, and while it misses out on the podium places, I knew it was impossible for me to leave it off this list. It's the video I thought of when I came up with the video idea in the first place, and shows this art form at its most intense and beautiful. If you come away from this list with anything, do so with the knowledge that this video and this band are worth checking out. You will not regret it. If there's one thing that visual media and music have had in common for literal decades, it's that both are a fine medium to light up a fat one, take a pill, and get lost in the tipple of your choice, to experience it in a vastly different way compared to what you would be if you were sober and attentive. The use of vibrant colours and shifting soundscapes have long been standard of music player visualizers, whilst the Beatles introduced the use of LSD to the forefront of the creative identity of music as an art form, and have ensured that since then the idea of a drug trip as a concept can always find a home. It has been used by many a musician and animator to flex their muscles by taking the abstract and pushing their respective forms in directions that seemed impossible to tread. And I will admit this is very admirable, but it often leaves both audio and visual feeling oddly disconnected, highlighting one medium's superiority over the other, and, in some cases, neither. As a result, I felt pressured to include one of these examples out of the sheer need to do so, more than whether it actually fit what I was seeking from the criteria. And just when I thought I'd ran out of hope, a music video opened the door, made its presence felt, and left accordingly, saying very little in the process. What sets apart Blockheads the music scene from the rest of its stylistic contemporaries is that while it does go for a trippy aesthetic, it doesn't do so going forward a million miles a minute in showcasing them. The slow unravelling of the animal and human subjects as ribbons unfurl from their body is dripping in multicoloured and dynamic sakuga, to where it leaves your eyes pining for more, as its subtle yet punchy instrumental backing leaves you entranced. The story of nature being overcome by the vice of technology, as all eventually crumbles around its influence, is not hidden away, and leaves you staring at every frame to decode its message, that with every layer of subtext unveiled brings you no closer to escaping the colourful, fluid, and demonstrably violent excess that it presents. While other videos of similar ilk try to floor you with abrasive displays, this one softly calms you into submission by making you question every step taken as you marvel its level of fundamental complexity. When researching the videos for this list, I was expecting to find one diamond in the rough that I'd never seen before that made me sit up and say without question that this is an absolute superb video that needs to be recognised appropriately. At the end of the day, this is exactly the kind of artistically virulent yet poetically civil forms of cohesion between audio and visual that I have been looking for. So many aspects of our culture just try to use drug-influenced trippy styles of video to vomit as much visual panache as you could imagine at a viewer because it's stimulating. But if done without meaning or purpose, it's moot and pointless, really. So for this video to give you a sobering indictment of our technological relationship alongside music that isn't designed to overwhelm in equal measure, to have it come through so well is absolutely marvellous to behold. This video stormed into the higher echelons of this list through sheer force of will, and it was an underdog that could and summarily did. It's unbelievable, and well deserving of a bronze medal from me. Given all the styles of animation that I've talked about in this list so far, I'd be amiss if I didn't talk about anime just once. It's easy to see how striking the Japanese style and genre of animation has influenced the world since it rose to international prominence in the 1980s, and has since been injected into many forms of our media as many people have watched and consumed it, with music videos being no exception. You can see through the neon glistening grittiness of Nero's Into the Night that cyberpunk sci-fi masterpiece Akira had a hand in offering some stylistic musings. Studio Ghibli and Power Rangers were paid respect to by Twerp's stunning video for Starlight Brigade. Porter Robinson and Madeon's Shelter was brought to life by A1 Pictures, a Japanese anime studio, and Crunchyroll, the streaming service, showing just how fantastic the collaborative efforts between anime and music industries could be. And most surprisingly of all, I can't believe this exists, a Britney Spears homage to Ghost in the Shell through her song Break the Ice. Yeah, I was not expecting to find this upon researching for the list. Either way, this is only the tip of the iceberg in of itself, but when you want to see the best representation of it in music, you only need to look at a band formed partly by Japanese Americans to truly take it to another level. Animated by famed anime studio Gonzo and co-directed by the band's turntable maestro Joe Hahn, Breaking the Habit stunned viewers upon its release with its visceral realism in portraying domestic abuse, suicide, and the depressing nature of life itself amongst a dark and dingy industrial city, all while the song proclaims Mike Shinoda's message to Chester Bennington to break the cycle of substance abuse that at the time he was rooted in, profoundly coming to fruition as Chester rises from death and is able to sing proudly again alongside his fellow rotoscoped bandmates. While that imagery is sobering and heartbreaking considering the fate that eventually befell the tortured lead singer in the end, it's awe-inspiring to see the song's message in full flow with the animation's immense detail, stop-start editing and pacing, scratched and disheveled appearance accented by the ethereal and muted colour palette coming together to paint the most brutal picture applicable for a new metal band who never shied away from this subject matter. It's a match made in heaven as the combination sends shivers down the spine as it progresses through its astoundingly short runtime with brute strength. It's overall a very painful reflection that proves that music videos can still be wondrously beautiful, even if it's torturously bleak, with the sheer number of videos lacking in vibrant colour on this list being a very strong indicator of that, and with this being the apex of just how true that statement is. This video strikes you when you least expect it and tells a comprehensive story of hope through the dark times and reversing polarities. It's unashamed to confront itself and doesn't hold back, making it hit twice as hard when not just the audio, but the visuals bring that home. It's a video that never ceases to amaze me and stands my hair up on end every single time I watch and listen, and it was a surefire inclusion for the list if I ever saw one. It knocked my socks off back when I first got into Linkin Park back in 2004, and to this day remains etched onto my musical psyche. It's no wonder that it has the silver medal placing based on that alone. It's a standard bearer that is topped only by one, which is all the more impressive in context. Music as an art form is often associated with those who create it and leave a stylistic imprint behind that is very easy to identify. A vocal style, a guitar tone, production aesthetics, image, album art, bombastic live shows, a landmark release that subsequently influences all who follow on from it. All of these are what makes the most lauded, and in some cases most derided in the industry, for standing out, to ensure that it would come as no surprise that much like film and television, the music video, and animated ones in particular, would have auteurs too. Surprisingly though, few behind the microphone or the camera really get that kind of recognition. Of course, you have Aardman and their groundbreaking animations that made Peter Gabriel's career hit the highest apex it would ever reach. And you have Rudoco, who have ensured that modern videos that bear their name are unforgettable. And dare I say, the team behind Justice's videos are goddamn geniuses, because oh my god, they are so good. I am so saddened that I couldn't include them on this list at all. And most jarringly, the two have combined as legendary film animator Don Bluth contributed to the Scissor Sisters' Mary in one of the most unexpected collaborations I have ever seen. One artist, however, has left his indelible mark on the music video as an art form and the history of it in totality: Todd McFarlane of Spawn fame. There are two videos that I've already noted in passing on this list that have his handprints all over them: Korn's Freak on a Leash and Disturbed's Land of Confusion. They stand proudly as two of rock and metal's finest and most iconic music videos, thanks to his style influencing and ensuring they make a splash. And rightfully so, I may add. However, there is one video released in between both of them that goes woefully unrecognised. It never gets TV airplay and fits the bill when it comes to highlighting both his trademark comic book style and the dark atmosphere that only Kevin Altieri, director of Batman the Animated Series, could provide, whilst also ensuring that song hits with a punch to the face and breaks your skull in the process. If you've not figured out what song and video I'm talking about yet, then boy, are you in for a treat. After their seminal debut album 10 finished its release cycle in 1992, Pearl Jam did not release a single music video for anything on the following 3 albums, which is kind of surprising given the popularity of the band in question. So when they returned to the public consciousness with their 5th album Yield in 1997, the same followed. Then in came Do the Evolution, which was like a nuclear bomb onto them as a whole, and it does as a video what only an angry Eddie Vedder could summarise: just how fucked up and twisted our world is, has been, and will always continue to be. Utilising McFarlane and Altieri's dark, gritty, and fundamentally depressing imagery, we see the rise of the Earth from the beginning of life to the destruction of all around us, with a striking highlight reel of multiple atrocities and depressing realizations of humanity throughout history. Then, the present day, and of course, its very ominous future. All while a scantily clad goth girl playing death with a playful smile, crimson lips, and a bridge sex appeal lures many in, to poetically call out how we disgustingly glorify the history we all fail to learn from. Something that's abundantly clear based on the comments section of this video, as many don't pay attention to the message, only lusting for the girl of their dreams instead of taking in this bittersweet yet breathtaking audio-visual experience. For a band as political, concise, and well-rounded as Pearl Jam are, this rough and ragged, raw and restless, guttural and ferocious hard rock song that goes against a lot of what many expect from them complements the visuals perfectly and shows a band and artists in blissful yet chaotic harmony that very few can even come close to matching. It flows superbly from one set piece to another without losing a beat or dropping in tone. It's so remarkably consistent that I'm left blown away by its level of visual detail, thematic value, and just how far it brings this song onto another plane of existence higher than all of the rest beneath it. It's appropriate, really, because After over 20 years, no matter how many people have seen this video, it still hits home as hard as it did upon release in 1998, showing just how timeless a piece of animation and music can be when all the right elements come together as one audio-visual compound. I can't argue against it. Pearl Jam's Do the Evolution is the greatest animated music video of all time, and honestly it will remain so for as long as that imagery remains prevalent to our society. Hell, the fact that a YouTuber managed to remediate it by combining it with then contemporary footage in 2016, predating and anticipating the Trump presidency, is enough to highlight just how relevant it continues to be as a piece of media, and that should be enough of a convincing argument for that. This is how you do a political song, and through the use of animation, it will continue to stand the test of time, to where, upon evolution, it will continue to grow ever more so. I've been Freddie Thomas, you've been people watching, this is the CC Network, and I will see you all next time.